If you've been listening for the last couple of weeks, you know that we have had conversations with a number of candidates for the state Supreme Court here in Mississippi in different districts. One of the candidates in District 3 is Byron Carter, running for Supreme Court Justice District 3. And we appreciate him joining us this morning. Byron, good morning. Thanks so much for coming in studio and for your time.
Glad to be here.
Let's just start with big picture. Why are you running for this position?
Okay, I clerked for the Supreme Court, and when I was there, I loved it. It's aimed toward my personality, my intellect, and I told them I would be back, and it's taken me a long time to get back because I've been waiting for somebody to retire, and they wouldn't.
Those seats tend to not turn over a whole lot. I've tried to be really careful as we talk to candidates, because I know you can't talk about policy positions on specific cases, and you got to be careful about party affiliations and all of those things. But I will ask you this. When you look at the Supreme Court in Mississippi, what do you think is the biggest issue that is facing the Supreme Court that's got to be dealt with or has to be closely looked at?
Well, following this election, it's going to be try to get credibility back. Your commercial, not yours, but the commercial that just ran before here talked about the liberal Supreme Court from years ago. I'd like to see what those opinions are. I don't know about the liberal Supreme Court. I don't think it's ever been liberal, but there are a lot of different issues that are before the court, which I can't go into if anything that I know is coming up. But.
In your mind, I mean, I think we know intellectually what the answer to this is, but the role of the Supreme Court in Mississippi, what's the importance of that role, and how do you define the role of the court?
Okay. Well, it is the highest appellate court in the state. I don't really understand how we got to the procedure where all appeals go to the Supreme Court and then some are farmed off to the Court of Appeals. I've never quite understood the logic behind that, but it is the highest court. So if you're dissatisfied, or any litigant's dissatisfied with their case and that it's going to be appealed, it's going to the Supreme Court. So if you got to have 9 justices there who are open-minded, who are going to follow the Constitution, which is what every judge in the state is sworn to do, then you need justices who have the intellect to understand your situation and your case.
Talk to us a little bit about your background as an attorney. You've been a practicing attorney for a long time. You mentioned clerking for the court years ago as well, but kind of some things in your career that have maybe prepared you for this.
Okay. Well, I started out while in law school, I did an internship with the Secretary of State's office. Then after that, I was lucky enough to be a clerk on the Supreme Court. I learned how to write opinions, learned how to write memorandums, learned how to discuss cases with judges other than my own judge, because for some reason he sent me to try to get a middle ground between the position we were in and the position that another justice might be in to try to resolve that. Never understood why he did that to me, but he did. And then after that, a learning experience nonetheless, right? It was fun and learning. In fact, one of those justices I know you interviewed, David Sullivan. One was Mike Sullivan. I can remember him chain smoking the cigarettes while I was trying to talk to him. But I loved him to death. But after that, I went to Alabama, worked for a law firm where whenever people had a case that they were unsatisfied with and appealed, or if they were in an appeal where the other side had appealed, they would contact the attorney that I was working for and say, "Can you handle our appeal?" So I wrote lots of briefs doing that, and then even after that, I've written a lot of briefs. I've got one right now in the 11th Circuit in Atlanta, Georgia, that I'm working on.
What is your appeal to voters as you've gone across this, and we've talked about a lot the fact that these are nonpartisan elections, so there's a challenge, right? And you can't brand yourself as a Republican, you can't brand yourself as a Democrat. You have to appeal to voters based on your history and what you see in terms of vision.
Well, there'd be probably 3 things in this race. We do have some party politics that are involved, but basically, I'm a lot like Opie, who grew up in Mayberry. That's where I grew up. Will East grew up about a mile from where I grew up. If that tells you anything.
Small town Mississippi.
Yeah, he's our famous person, I guess. So I'm a lot like that. I tell people I'm a lot like Mike Leach. which may be scary to some people. But I analyze things just like he did. He was the best at analyzing defenses. I think he was the best ever. But as far as analyzing other subjects, he was very good at that as well. I followed what he said. I usually agreed with what he said, which may be scary to some people. But that's my intellect is to look at things, to analyze things. I think that's what you need on the Supreme Court, is somebody who can analyze facts, analyze the case law, and then put those things together to see whether the jury or the judge was correct.
As I've done some of these interviews and talked with people, I think everybody that is running has brought up the Constitution, just like you did a second ago. And there are people that have branded themselves as constitutional conservatives who say, look, the Constitution was written. This is what it is. It's not for change. It's not open for interpretation. When you talk about the Constitution and using that to affect decisions that happen at the Supreme Court level, talk to me about your thoughts on that.
Okay. I've watched your interviews. You've gotten several responses, actually. Constitutional conservatism is a buzzword. It's a political buzzword. There are papers written trying to define what that means because it's not so clear. So to use that it's a political buzzword. People hear conservative. Oh, I'm conservative, so I'm going to vote for that person. Go try to look it up and find out what it means. I've gone to 2 different law schools asking what it means, and nobody can give me a clear answer. But as far as the Constitution, we're sworn to follow the Constitution. I'm going to follow the Constitution. I love the Constitution, actually. The Mississippi Constitution, I reread it here recently, and what I really like about it more than anything is that federal Constitution, it starts with "we the people," and we've got the long preamble that everybody loves to recite and learn. The Mississippi is one sentence. It talks about the Almighty God, and that's about all it talks about, and then you head on to what it's really about. Mississippi, we don't speak a lot. We get to the point. But as far as following the Constitution, I agree with that. I've heard one candidate who said it's not in our race. One candidate who said it's a living, breathing document, and that's what I was taught in law school. Yet we're in this race we're talking about. It's not. It's set in stone. We're gonna follow it, and that's what it is. I think it's easy to do both. You don't have to rewrite the Constitution to follow the law and to follow what it says. It may not make a lot of sense, but
no, I understand. I think I understand what you're saying. You were mentioning Mike Leach a second ago. The word that struck me, or when I think about Mike Leach, is he was a curious person, right? Like he wanted to know more, and that's why he read, and that's why he had so many different interests. I think I hear that or sense that in some of your answers that there's a curiosity to learn more and maybe not just take things at face value.
I do. I try to learn something every day. Listen to Spanish in my vehicle every day, trying to learn Spanish.
How's that going?
Very slow. or maybe I say más despacio. But it's. I actually try to learn something every day, and I've learned. I've done so many things and had so many experiences. If you want to go into the next segment, we'll skip talking about the election. I can tell you all kinds of different interesting things. But I'm a scuba diver, aircraft pilot, truck driver, forklift driver, driven tractors, working in the field. One of the things why my wife does not like me to call myself a nerd, so I've tried to get away from that. Now I call myself a leech to try to move toward Mike Leach.
That's fair.
But one of the things that I've told with her, and I've never spoken this in public, but we talk about experience. That's the biggest thing in any race is experience. And so that's where I am, is trying to get experience. And I've been for 40 years. I've been getting experience for this position, and that's what I've been working toward.
Byron Carter, a candidate for District 3. I'll give you the final word, 20 seconds or so. Your final pitch to voters, as we're now just 13 days away from the election.
Okay. As far as my experience, started out as an Eagle Scout, which I think is important. Tells you a lot about who I am. Next, I've got the experience that we talked about with the Supreme Court. Got experience writing briefs, Mississippi and Alabama. I'm also the only member, only person who's admitted to or has joined the appellate law section of the Mississippi Bar. I would think that'd be the first thing you would do if you were going to run for an appellate judge position.
Byron Carter, candidate for Supreme Court Justice, District 3, on the ballot in 13 days. Byron, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for coming by this morning.
Thanks.
We'll take a time out. This is the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk, Mississippi.